Alright, what's up everybody, Mr. Mira here, and today we have another method video in Java. This video is actually getting made way after, like a couple weeks after the other method videos were getting made. I was going through and editing the method videos, and I realized I need to clarify some things, but I also realized that I should have probably spent more time talking about parameters and return types. So I didn't want to re-record all those videos. They have some good information in them. They have some useful information in them, but I wanted to spend another video going over some parts that maybe were skipped over or skimmed over too quickly. The first thing is the clarification thing. I want to mention that, so method header is everything from the public line to the opening curly brace. The method signature is actually only the name of the method and the list of the parameters, the data types, and their names. So I wanted to make sure that we clarified the difference there between a header and a signature, because the signature becomes important when we talk about method overloading. So the method signature is only the name and the list of parameters, everything between the parentheses. So this video is being made for that correction and to re-examine the parameters and return types as I mentioned there. Now we should start by going over parameters and arguments. So let's open up our file here, and what did we go with? I think we went with the two towers today. We did, and we have our public static void main method in there. Now we should start with, as I said before we opened this up, parameters and arguments, or formal arguments and actual arguments. Remember, I'm only going to say parameters and arguments. I don't want to have to say formal arguments and actual arguments when I'm talking about all this stuff. But when we create a method, when we are creating a method, and we're going to stick with our Warcraft method here, or our Warcraft ideas and the methods. So let's make a method, and let's say public static. We'll say, what do I want to do here? We'll do string, and we will say build building. This might be a method that we've already done or looked at in the other video or in the other videos on methods, but we're going to do that, and we're going to test in, we're going to say string name. String name is going to be our parameter. We should also probably do, what else do I need? I also need int gold amount, we'll say. So parameters are what go between the parentheses. When creating a method, we put parameters between the parentheses here. At the end of the header, they are part of the method signature. When we put parameters, we must provide the data type and a name for that parameter. So the data type tells us when we're calling the method, what do we need to pass in? What data type do we need to pass in? The name is what we're allowed to refer to this parameter as inside the actual method. So this parameter, when we refer to it in here, we are going to say name or gold amount. If I have multiple, they are separated by a comma, and they should be separated by a comma. I don't need to have any. I could leave it blank. I'll cut out real quick, but I always need the parentheses. So even if I don't have any parameters, I still need the parentheses in there. Now, when we go to call a method from somewhere else, we provide the arguments that method requires. We provide the arguments that method requires. So if I were to go in here and I were to call build building, I am expected to pass in arguments, and the amount of arguments, the number of arguments that I need to pass in, has to match the number of parameters that the method is asking for. And we also must match the data type of the parameters. So our arguments need to be 2, and the first argument needs to be a name, and the second argument needs to be a gold amount. So I need to have 2 arguments. The first one needs to be a string. I said name. The first one needs to be a string. The second one needs to be an int. So the data type is what needs to match. So I need to pass in, right, like a word and then a number. Once I have done that, notice that error went away because now I am calling the method correctly. So I don't need to match the variable names. I don't need to match the parameter names. I need to match the data type. I need to match the data type here. When giving arguments, I can give literal values like I did here, or I could give, so if I said int gold equals, I could also give a variable name. So the data type needs to match and the order needs to match. So I can't say int first followed by a string. That's the wrong order. Even though I have a string and an int, it needs to be string first and then int second. Okay, so that is our parameter close up look at a parameter here. So when we have a method declared with a return type, so So let's kind of start shifting focus towards a return type here. When we have a method declared with a return type, my return type right here is string. We should be calling this method within a statement that uses the assignment operator. We should not be calling the method standalone like this. I'm expecting to get back a string, so I should be using the assignment operator and storing that value into a matching type. So I want to know, we'll do like building name. So this is returning a string, so I want to store the result of this return into an appropriate variable using the assignment operator. If we are not returning a result from a method, it is declared as void to be the return type. So if I were to make another method here, public static void message, no parameters, and we'll just say in here system.out.println, println, we'll do our work. So if the method is void, if it doesn't have a return type, it's declared as void, then the method call should be made as a standalone statement inside our code. So it does not get stored in anything. It does not get called as part of anything else. It is a standalone statement inside our method. So when we are making methods, we should consider the return type value, or if we want to return a value. Our return type is the data type we are returning to where we are called as a method. We need to have a return statement inside the method, and it needs to be reachable. The correct data type needs to be returned on the return line. So right here, I'm expected to return a string. So I could do this in a couple ways. I could say return and then return we'll say like barracks, and that is covering my string. I am returning a string word here. I'm returning a string value. I could also set up a string and we'll say like building, and we'll do equals barracks, and then we will just say return building. So now the variable that I'm returning matches the data type of my return type. So when I'm returning something, I need to have a return statement that is reachable, and the correct data type needs to be returned on that return statement line. Void doesn't return a value. We cannot put a return statement inside of a void method. It will yell at us. It will tell us that that is incorrect. So in Java, right, where we're going to end this video, well, let's talk about these parameters some more. So inside Java, right, and we'll get rid of this and we'll just say actual gold amount here. Say gold amount there. Doesn't really matter that we're just returning the word barracks, because we're going to end by talking about parameters. So when we pass in arguments into a method, they are passed by value. It doesn't matter the type. It doesn't matter if it's an int, a string, an object that we made, a class, an array list, a linked list, etc. It doesn't matter what the type is. It is always passed by value. And what that means is that the parameter we have inside the method is a copy of the argument. It is not the actual argument. It is only a copy. Any changes to the parameter do not affect the argument itself. And what this does is it stops us from accidentally having side effects from a method. However, there is a workaround here. We do have a workaround available to us when we start discussing more object-oriented topics and objects that we will be creating. There is some change that does carry over, but we are never changing the actual argument. Even if a change happens and we see it in two different locations, we're still not changing the actual argument. We need to keep that in mind. It is always passed by value, which means the argument is always a copy. The argument itself is always a copy. And to show this off, let's do a print statement here. I'll say system.out.println. I'll go back and put a period in there. So we'll do that, and we'll just print out the gold amount. So let's do gold is equal to gold. And we'll do a print statement there, and then we'll do a print statement after. So this is 2, this is 1. So 1 is before we call the method, 2 is after we have called the method. Inside the method, let's say gold amount is equal to itself minus 500. And then we will print out what gold amount is inside here. So actually, we'll just copy. So we'll say gold amount, and that is gold amount. And then we will print it out before. So when we first come in and when we leave. Okay, so what we're going to see here, just to kind of reinforce our pass by value, is we're going to see gold amount 1,000. Then we're going to see gold amount 1,000. Then we're going to see gold amount 500 because we're subtracting 500 from 1,000. But then when we print out up here, we're going to see 1,000 again. So let's run this code. We're going to move our print to the side here, and we can already see it on the screen, but we'll just move it over there anyways. So we see our 1,000 right here. We're 1,000. We call the method and we see that we're 1,000 as gold amount, but then we subtracted 500 from it. So now we expect 500. But when we return back up to the main method, gold is still equal to 1,000. So even though we passed in gold and we called it gold amount and we subtracted 500 from it, when we came back, gold still had the value of 1,000. So this is passed by value. We are a copy, and anything we do to the parameter does not impact the actual argument that was passed in. And that's where we're going to end this video. I don't know what the next video is going to be because other videos are already recorded after this and I forget where we were up to. But this video, yeah, is just kind of a flashback to methods, hopefully clarify some things, talk about some things that were gone over quickly or maybe not clearly enough in those earlier videos. So until next time, everybody, have a week.